Welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge, and let's talk horror. Now, today I'm joined by the amazing Max Bartos. Max, how you
Yeah,
doing today, man?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Dude, I am so excited to have you here. Luckily, I stumbled upon your music, and I was like, I really got to hang out with this guy a little bit. So, before we talk about why you're here, Max, I would like for the people that don't know you to get to know you a little bit.
Yeah,
You're a 20-year-old singer actor from New York City, best known for originating the role of Darren in Sing Street, the musical, which
yeah,
is totally dope.
yeah.
Um, you're a self-taught musician that plays six instruments, anything with strings, really, acoustic, electric guitar,
Yeah.
as well as bass, banjo, mandolin. But you do, play a little bit of the drums.
I slap the skins every now and then.
And piano too, man. And me
Yeah.
personally, I grew up, I started playing drums. I went from drums to playing guitar. And the jump from guitar to piano to me, everybody's like, oh, they're kind of the same. Like, they're really not. Your
Oh,
lead hand is your right hand when you're playing a lot of piano, and your rhythm hand, your left hand, where it's the complete opposite playing guitar. So, how
oh
did you
yeah.
make that jump from stringed instruments to the piano to tickling the ivories?
Yeah, for me it was I started off by just like looking at the chords above the sheet music in
Mm-hmm.
piano and being like, okay, so like this is what I have to do. And then for a while, I always joked that I played piano like a guitar player, and I would just
Yes.
arpeggiate chords in the right hand and do bass octaves in the left. And you know, it got me through what I had to. And then I booked Sing Street, the musical, which it's based off of a 2016 Irish movie about a group of boys that form a band together. And in the audition process, we had to well, we knew before we went in, obviously, but it's an acting musician show, so there was no pit orchestra whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
We all played every single song live on stage, just the five of us that were like the band members. So we all had to learn pretty expertly acoustic guitar, rhythm electric, lead electric, drums, real piano,
Yeah.
synthesizer. Like it was legit. So luckily, having already in a base understanding of like what the chord shapes are on the piano and how to move my hands on the piano from playing piano like a guitar player for so many years.
Mm-hmm.
Actually then learning, oh, okay, so this is actually how you transfer, reading a page of music to your hands. Like
Yeah.
came pretty nicely. Also, we had like the best coaches out there that were hired by the show. So,
That's cool, man. I'm with you. When I first started piano, my left hand was just definitely doing the bass stuff. It was like
oh
the
yeah.
bass stuff with my left hand and the creating the octaves with my right hand, like that was
Yep.
all I was doing. So,
Oh yeah.
um, well, and then, you have, you're doing your music now. Like I said, the romantic folk rock.
Yeah.
You have inspirations from Broadway background, and then also, Noah Kahan, My Chemical
Yeah.
Romance, Dashboard, Green Day, which anybody that knows me, when I went to high school, I was known as Emo Kid Kenny. So if you're
Yeah.
talking about acoustic folk rock, if you're talking about stuff like that, love it. Love Chris Carrabba, love everything
Oh,
he did from Further Seems Forever to Dashboard. I think the guy is just, he's a musical genius. He's the guy that taught me what open D tuning was. So,
yeah, me too.
um,
Open D tuning is my go-to. I will literally just put a capo on the guitar and just be like, now we're in open E, but we're still using the same harmonics.
Exactly, man. Like,
Oh
and
yeah.
it's an
It's
amazing thing to learn because I'm quite a bit older than you. So for me, it's really awesome to see somebody as young as you that appreciates, people like Green Day, My Chem,
oh,
those
they're
type of
the
bands that I grew up with, man. Like, it's
yeah.
so fucking cool, man. Like now I know how the guys that like that my older guys that listen to like Metallica, AC/DC, Thin Lizzy, and I listen
Yeah.
to them. They're like, "Yeah, that's cool, man. I remember when I was your
Yeah.
age," and I was like, "Oh, you're geriatric." Now I'm the geriatric one that's like, "Oh man, you
No,
kids," But
don't
um,
worry. I didn't that thought did not cross my mind.
well, the best thing about Max is, like I said, he's relentlessly recording, getting ready to put out a new or an EP or a record, right?
A new record, yeah. So I released one back in October called Memento Mori, which was it's I like to write in and maybe this is just I don't know if it's a mix of my theatrical background and also self-preservation. But I like to write from very a la Gerard way and write from the perspective of a character.
Yeah,
Gerard is like my biggest inspiration when it comes to on-stage personas and theatricality, and Dashboard is definitely my biggest influence in terms of like sonics. So I always say that if Chris Carrabba and Gerard Way met and had a child, that's me. Um, which
I would
is
raise that child.
yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Yeah. But it's fun. Yeah. I mean, so I wrote this thing on I wrote this album about this ghost that was dealing with uh his last 24 hours left on Earth, and
Mhm.
he's just yearning for the love of his life to see him once more before he fades away forever. Um, and if you listen to the album sequentially, like you get that story, you get everything, and then it ends very sadly with him singing a finger picked ballad as he's fading into nothingness. Which when I sang that song to my parents for the first time, I got a little. Are you okay?
Yes.
It's hard when you sing. I wish it ended better, but I knew I was gonna die, and I can't bear to see you cry, as the
Mhm.
closing lines of an album. But
Right. I
you
told
know,
you it wasn't a phase, mom and dad.
no, cause tonight will be the night that I will
Yes.
fall for you.
Sick, man. That's so great.
Oh yeah.
Um, and it's
Everybody out
amazing
there,
because
I promise everyone that's not my actual singing voice. It was a bit.
no, but what I love about it is, we talk about storytelling in music, and I feel like
Yeah.
conceptual albums like that are super important, because you can make a conceptual album like that, but you can still make it about your own personal life, personal experiences that you've had, and you're creating these characters based on people that things that have happened in your own personal life, and you're fictionalizing them into your characters. And I think that's really special because
Oh yeah.
it's a lot harder to write a conceptual album than just a collection of songs. And I'm not saying anything is wrong with writing an album that's a collection of songs. Anybody that's
No.
making music, you're creating art, and I hope it succeeds. I hope that there's an audience for it. I'm just
Oh
a
yeah.
sucker for conceptual albums, man. I don't know if it's
No,
because
me
I grew up
too.
with Pink Floyd or what it is, but
Yeah. I mean,
um,
for me, I mean, I grew up literally doing shows for a living in Broadway and stuff, and that is all using music to further a plot. So I guess that's kind of like ingrained itself in my psyche a little bit, and that's kind of the only way I really know how to write. Like somebody asked me the other day, they were like, "Oh, let's like co-write a song or something." I was like, "Great, what's like the concept? Like, what's it fit into?" And they were like, "Oh, just like a song." And I was like, "Oh, yeah." I like had to like retrain my brain into thinking like about all that. But I'm really excited about this new record though. This is the first time I'm talking about it too. I mean, I'm talking about it a bit on my Instagram, but like, um, yeah, I've been going into the studio. We got most of the demos like done and recorded, so like we're starting the actual tracking soon, which I'm
mhm.
really excited about. Um, but this one's a concept album about Lucifer after he's fallen from heaven, and he is yearning for this angel who's still up in heaven that he was separated from after he was cast out. So he is fighting his way to get back into heaven to be with the angel that he loved.
Dude, love is love, man. Even
Love
if
is
it's
love.
Lucifer love.
Even the
Um,
devil has a heart.
right. So the
Yeah.
best thing you guys could do, I have all of Max's links down in the description. So make
Yeah.
sure you're checking out the record. Make sure you're following him on Instagram so you can stay up to date on the next record that is in process right now. So before we get into why we're here, when you're doing your tracking and stuff in the studio, because I know that you like to do a lot of it, do you do every instrument when you're doing your tracking? Like, do you go in and do it all, or do you have like a backing band that goes in with you for the recording process?
Yeah, I mean, I can, but at the same time, it's like I'd rather let other people use their talents and creativity, and I'm not egotistical in that way where it's like it has to be my way. I'm like, no, if you come up with a drum line that you think is like super sick, please do it because it will enhance the song.
Exactly.
Um, yeah, so I really focus mostly on synth and all the guitar, and lead vocals and backing vocals and stuff like that. And then my music producer actually drums, and so he does all the drumming on the albums. And the cool thing is I gotta give a shout out to West Side Music, who is in charge of um not in charge of, but they produce all my music. And Alan Douches is just incredible, and David and Jeremy and Amelia, who they're in a band called Sir Echo, and they're like a really cool like goth rock metal doom metal female fronted band. Like they're fucking sick.
Yeah.
Um, and the three of them live at the studio. So David, who's my producer, is the drummer in the band. So he drums on my stuff. Jeremy is the guitarist in the band, and he does the lead guitar stuff on my stuff. Um, And then Amelia is the lead singer in keys, so she does some atmospheric synthy things sometimes if I'm busy playing guitar, because we do live tracking too. So it's hard for
Mhm.
me to play.
Do everything
Yeah,
during
like
live tracking.
yeah, running around like a madman would be a lot.
Right.
Yeah, a
Well, and
lot.
I can't wait to hear this because, like I said, I love the concept of humanizing Lucifer because we know, like you said, he was the most beautiful angel in heaven, cast out. He had to have at least friends and some loved ones up there. So the
Exactly.
idea of
Yeah.
him trying to get that back, I think that's a brilliant idea, and I can't wait for it. And like I
Well,
said,
thank you.
guys,
Yeah.
the best way for you to stay up to date on that is by clicking the links down in the description and becoming a part of his family as well. So,
Please do. I
Lucifer,
would. It mean a lot.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, dude, please, honestly, guys, do it. You are not going to regret it. Like I said,
Thank
scroll
you.
through Instagram, heard his stuff. I was like, I got to work with this guy. So
Well,
I
thank you.
messaged him right away and we made this happen. And I can't wait to hear what you have coming up for us. Now,
Yeah.
Lucifer being cast down, still having a heart, that's very horror centric in my eyes.
Very.
So,
I'm very inspired by all things horror. Favorite genre.
and that's why we're here today, man. I want to go back to the past and talk
Let's
about
do
how
it.
that favorite genre started for you, your first horror movie. And Max, the first horror movie you watched was
The Silence of the Lambs. Which you could, I mean, you could argue that it's more of a psychological thriller, but to me, it's horror. I mean, it's
100% horror.
it's scary as hell. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah,
And like I said, this is a movie that I think a lot of people really try to say it's not horror because of the amount of awards it won. And horror is notorious for never winning awards. So, oh, well, it's
yeah.
not horror, it's psychological thriller. It's like, come on, man. That's
I'm
like
like,
saying a taco is not a sandwich. It's still a sandwich. Come on,
yeah,
let's get real
no,
here.
literally,
Um,
literally.
so, The Silence of the Lambs is a very heavy, very dark movie. Do you remember about how old you were the first time you had seen it?
I remember I was flying back home from LA. I was like shooting a movie out there. I think I was like 13. And I remember growing up, my mom was always talking about how the two scariest movies she had ever seen were The Silence of the Lambs and Nightmare on Elm Street.
Mm-hmm.
Now, on the flight I was on, they did not have Nightmare on Elm Street, but I was scrolling through and I was like, oh, what's this? Silence of the Lambs. Let's see what this is about and why my mom is so scared of it. And I watched it and I was like, oh, I like this kind of movie. Like, this is cool. And then the next one I did watch was Nightmare on Elm Street, and I was like, all right, welcome to primetime bitch indeed. I am here for
Yes,
this.
yes. And
Yeah.
it's amazing because Silence of the Lambs to me is one of those films that really has stood the test of time
Yeah.
because, and it's really a movie with two amazing villains in the movie. Um,
Yeah. Both
and we
expertly played.
yes, and we don't get a lot of that anymore. We always focus
No.
on one villain, one heroine, one hero, but very effective movie. Do you remember which scene it was that affected you the most?
For me, so I mean, the reason I knew about the movie in the first place is I grew up in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and
Mhm.
when I would go to New York for auditions or whatever, we would go through 30th Street Station. And my mom would always say that there was a statue in 30th Street Station that is of an angel. And she always said, oh, how much she hated that statue because it reminded her of that scene from Silence of the Lambs where the guard is strung up and his skin is all stretched to look like an angel. Um, so that scene for me was the one that I was looking out for when I was watching it. And I think that's that whole sequence of him escaping and then him lying in the gurney and just peeling off the face is like that's one of the most impactful scenes of cinema I've ever seen because it started a love of genre for me.
Whenever somebody says it's not a horror movie, I'm like, watch the third act.
Literally
Just
watch,
watch
yeah.
the third act. Yeah, and it'll totally, like you said, the guard hanging up there, him sitting up with that ambulance and taking his, because you're like, there's no way Hannibal Lecter died in that elevator shaft. There's
No, there's
no
no way.
way, like
No,
that happened just
there's
now.
no way. And I mean the you fuck me or fuck me scene is horror enough. That's horror enough.
Even like every time that guy says anything, like when Clarice goes to the door and she's
Yeah.
asking about the,
Was she a great big fat person?
I lose my shit every time
The
I see
little
that
thing
part.
he does with the business cards, like, oh, it's so scary. Like, I remember reading that Seth Green, when he was doing the voice for Chris Griffin in early Family Guy episodes, he said that he wanted it to sound like Buffalo Bill speaking through a loudspeaker. And I was like,
That's
that's
amazing.
I was like, that's so niche. But then if you go back and watch early episodes of Family Guy, you're like, holy shit, that is actually exactly what he's doing.
I'm gonna go rewatch episode 1 tonight. I can see Peter hiding under a lampshade. I can
Yeah.
dig that right now.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and this is a movie that not only does have very effective scenes, but it has a lot of scenes that, like you said, throughout cinema history, people know certain things about this movie, even if they've never seen it. It puts the lotion on the skin, things
Oh
like that.
yeah.
People know things about this movie, even if they've never seen it. But what would you say your favorite scene from Silence is?
My favorite scene is the first time you see Hannibal Lecter just standing ramrod straight in his cell. And he doesn't say hello, Clarice, which is a common misconception.
Yep. It's
Um,
funny because at that moment too, when she leaves, some guy throws jizz on her, and you're like,
yeah,
dude,
yeah, and then he says the very famous line as she's walking towards the cell, which I will not say because I don't
yeah,
want me saying that line on the internet.
yes. It's
But
it's just
you know,
like I never understood that scene as a kid.
no,
Like
same.
you watch it as an adult, and you're like, oh my god, I would shoot the guy.
I would, yeah, I don't think I could go back there. And then Hannibal like coercing him to chew through his wrists.
Yeah, you talk about a
I mean, he won't
genius.
be he won't be flinging jizz on anybody anytime soon anymore. Like,
Well, and again, he punishes that guy essentially
yeah,
for what he did. You
yeah,
know,
it's so weird seeing, and I'm such a huge fan of like the anti-hero concept.
uh-huh.
Like Dr. Lecter is a diabolical person, but at the same time, there are so many things that he does throughout the course of the movie that you're like, he actually does have humanity in him
Hmm.
after all of this time.
You've seen some of the things he's done, but like you said, it's one of those things where even for someone like him, there's a line. There's a
Exactly.
line that you don't cross, and we see a lot of that in the prison systems nowadays. Some people can be in there for the worst things, but there's still things they do not tolerate in
No,
there.
I mean, it's like when Jeffrey Dahmer went into prison and he got murdered. It's like
Hmm.
there's a line that you don't cross, and people will make sure that you don't cross that line.
Exactly, and it's amazing to think about when you really get down to it. That's an amazing thing to think about. So right
Yeah.
now, in Hollywood, remakes, requels, sequels, kind of all the rage.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people know, but Hannibal Lecter, the trilogy, there are more than one Silence of the Lambs movies, even though
Yeah.
none of the other ones had the Silence of the Lamb named to them.
No.
Um, Today, would you like to see them try to redo Silence of the Lambs or do another requel like Red Dragon? Would you like to see them try to continue that story today?
I think it could be cool to do it not as like a try to like construct another storyline off of it, but I think if they tried to do like a really, really cool recreation or remake of it, like how they're doing Nosferatu right now,
Yeah,
like that's so cool and like it's so well cast that like it's got to be good. Like if you cast Bill Skarsgård in anything horror related, it's going to be good.
yeah.
Um, and the fact that he's playing Count Orlok just means it's going to be like unreal. So like I think if he would actually be a good in like 30 years, he would be a really good Hannibal if they did a remake of Silence of
That
the Lambs. And
face, like
holy shit,
he has that face, man.
he would be
And
so good.
I was just gonna say, for me, I wouldn't mind it because I am a fan of the movie, and I think that this is a movie that could do a reimagining, but it would 100% come down to the cast.
It would
Who
come
you're
down
gonna
to the
cast.
Oh, absolutely. Like I think you need to cast it very for me, I would almost rather see a bunch of like either really, really, really like well established, like reliable actors, or just like a bunch of newcomers
Yeah,
that are just like my favorite thing is when fans, like really, really big fans of franchises or movies get to be in it.
yeah.
Like there's a story I'm currently producing and I'm going to be in a production of Spring Awakening here in New York in April. So I've been doing a lot of research on that show, and I found out one of the guys who was played Hanshin on the national tour. He booked that role because when the show was running on Broadway, he was like the world's biggest fan of the show and made like message boards and group chats and stuff about the show. So that got the attention of the people, and then he got cast in the show. So I'd almost like to see something like that happen if they do a remake of it. Like people that are really into the movie getting a chance because they'll play it the most faithfully.
That's what I was gonna say, because their love of the film, they're gonna do it to make it the best movie possible. The money doesn't mean a damn thing to them.
No,
Just like
exactly.
I love fan films. Roseblood, Dylan's New Nightmare, all
Yeah,
these, fan films. I think they're the best because they do them for the right reasons. Um,
exactly.
so Max, we talked about your first horror movie being Silence of the Lambs and what that movie means to you. But here for a
Yeah,
second, I do want to throw a little bit of a curveball at you.
let's do it.
My little buddy Ghostface is here, and he has a question for you.
Okay.
What's your favorite scary movie, Max?
Okay, my
What is
favorite.
your favorite horror movie?
Okay, Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Yes,
That's my favorite.
dude, and
Like,
especially like I said, you being a musician, that's so amazing because that has one of the best, most
it's my
underrated scores,
it's
man.
my alarm in the morning is
Yes, that's
Killer
sick, dude.
Clowns from Outer Space.
Dude,
Like,
oh man, that's so cool.
it's
That's
so
so cool,
underrated.
man.
I went to go see they did a screening of it in Staten Island, and I rarely ever leave Manhattan, but I ventured out to go. It was so fun. They gave you cotton candy, and it was like I had the best time. No, that's my favorite. Is definitely Killer Clowns. It's insane. It's
It
utterly
is.
insane. Like it is batshit crazy, but that is what I love about it.
It's one of those movies that I put up there with like Jaws,
Yeah.
Back to the Future. Like, do not remake this movie, because if they
Nope.
tried to remake Killer Clowns, it would be all CGI.
Yeah, it
It
would
would
look too
not be
good.
as fun. Yeah, exactly. And that's a movie that does not look good, and that's how it's supposed to be. It's supposed
Yeah.
to be a cheeseball fun time. I would be very heartbroken if they tried to remake Killer Clowns.
No, me too.
Um, Man, I'm so glad you said that because that's such a fantastic movie. So,
No, I
before I
love
let
that
you go,
movie.
Max, because I've had an amazing time hanging out with you, but before I let you go, we always bounce back to the same question. We're going to
Yeah,
go back to Silence of the Lambs,
great.
and what we're going to do is rank this movie on a skull count.
Okay.
Now, we're not ranking it on acting, production, score, direction, nothing. We're not being critics. What we're doing here, Max, is ranking this movie on how much it affected you on your first viewing. So, 0 skulls being not effective, 5 being extremely effective. You can use half and quarter skulls anywhere in the middle. Max, what would your ranking of Silence of the Lambs be?
I'm gonna say 4 complete skulls and then 1 jawbone.
There you go.
Yeah.
Hopefully the lambs have stopped singing now, man.
Oof. Hopefully we won't find any moths down my throat in the morning.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Um, I know I said this at the beginning, guys, but I got to reiterate this because we are at the end of the third act. The credits are about to roll and the curtain's about to drop. But before that happens, all of Max's links are down in the description. So make sure you're checking him out wherever you get your music. Make sure you're following him on Instagram to stay up to date on when his next record is going to be available because we all know the writing recording process, it's a lot of stress, it's a lot of work for an artist. But once that polished album is out, there's not a better feeling in the world. So make
Truly.
sure you're joining his family by clicking the links down in the description.
Yes, please
Uh,
do. Doing a
Max,
lot of
please
gigs
don't
coming
go
up.
anywhere, my friend. Oh yeah, that's something I didn't even talk about before we go. I was just going to ask you at the beginning, and I totally forgot. Are you going to be touring anytime with the new
Yeah.
record coming out?
Yeah, I mean, I'm doing front half of this year is pretty booked up for me just with all the stuff I'm doing and theater and uh but I'm focusing on getting the album done and then hopefully doing another tour like I did last year during the fall. But I'm doing a bunch of gigs in New York coming up. I'm doing one. I'm turning 21 on February 12th, so I'm doing a gig that night.
Happy birthday,
Uh
dude.
Thank you. Yeah. It's funny. I'm not even excited to like be able to like go out and drink. I'm just excited to like be able to go see my other friends' bands play at clubs.
Right.
Yeah, because I'm at the point like I go and play shows, and then after I'm done with my set, I have to leave. Like I can't stay
Because
and
of
watch
your
and
age.
support. So
Yeah.
it's like, oh, great. So now I can actually go like hang out. And then I'm playing at the Troubadour in LA at on March 2nd. Or no, not on March 12th. And then I'm playing at Arlene's Grocery here in the city on March 2nd. So doing some gigs coming up.
Well, and if you guys need refreshers on those dates are also down in the description. So make sure you're
Amazing.
checking that out in the best way. Like I said, to stay up to date with when the tour comes. Because if he comes anywhere near Michigan, you know I'm going to be out there rocking out with him. So you guys are going to have to come and see us too. Is by following him on Instagram. He will have his tour dates posted on there as well. So
Yeah,
Max,
I
please don't go anywhere, my friend. I got a couple more questions for you.
I'll be here.
Um, Everybody else, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. It really helps to build the channel more than you know. And follow Sledgehammer Horror on social media. Our links are in the description as well. But until next time, keep talking horror, stay what you are, and we'll see you guys soon.